I've been listening to the Princess Mononoke soundtrack, well, the main theme really, pretty much on repeat since I saw the film last night. So if that does not say anything about the film's quality, or at least the quality of the music, I don't know what will. Let's talk about Princess Mononoke by Studio Ghibli. It's a Japanese film studio that's released many critically acclaimed films in Japan by Miyazaki, I think it's Miyazaki. I did not watch Studio Ghibli films as a kid, just didn't do it. So, the other day, I thought, I need to watch one. I was actually listening to a Brandon Sanderson podcast. Him and his friend Dan Wells, I think, were talking about their favourite films, and Sanderson mentioned Princess Mononoke. Now, seeing as Sanderson is one of my favourite authors, I said, yeah, fine, I'll finally give it a shot. So I watched the film, and it is very good. Of course, I'm not going to come here and say, oh, it's absolutely rubbish. Not going to lie, some things did go over my head, but in terms of just the film as a whole, did I enjoy the film? Yes, it was great. I loved the art style. Straight thing, I was like, oh yeah, oh damn, the art style. It reminded me a lot of Breath of the Wild, and it has this almost cel-shaded kind of look with it looks hand-drawn. I haven't done the research, but it looks hand-drawn, and it is beautiful. There are many landscape moments, or there's a particular moment where the spirit's walking and these flowers are popping up, and there's a lot of really beautiful moments in this film, and the art style is incredible. I wanted to talk about the art style just first, because that's what stuck out to me straight away. But the plot is, it's set in this fantasy, Japanese, feudal Japan probably inspired world, where there are these spirits, and there are these gods which are in the form of animals, and pretty much this guy, don't really know much about his past. You never actually learn about him personally too much, which is really interesting, because he's called a prince at the beginning of the film, and you never actually learn where that comes from. It's not actually where the story goes, which I thought was quite interesting. But basically, this guy is chilling out in a village, and he called Ashikara, and Ashitaka, that's his name. Ashitaka gets his arm covered in this weird gooey stuff after he defends the village from a demon-infested pig. He then has to leave, typical fantasy stuff, to try and find this spirit in order to try and get rid of the curse, because it's going to kill him. From then on, he travels across the land, you meet a few characters, but it very quickly, it's fairly fast-paced in this respect. It's actually, the film as a whole, I think, is quite, definitely has slower moments. But in terms of the actual journey from when he leaves home to then when he actually gets to the main area, which is Irontown, it's quite quick. And he gets there, he meets a guy called Jigo, who seemed at first to be like the old man character, like a kind of like Gandalf character, but then that quickly didn't happen, he just runs off. But he meets these people, and it quickly becomes a story about what appears to be an environmental story about the forest that's going to get destroyed, and then there's also humans, and they have technology, and there's lots of imagery with machinery and very drab landscapes in comparison to beautiful forests, and how they're struggling for power, pretty much. And so it is an environmental story in that respect. But one thing that I really noticed about this film was that it's not just that. It's grey, because while it is very clear by the end of the film that we do need nature, nature is good, not all the humans who try to take over the nature are necessarily evil people. We don't really get into their motivations too much, and this is actually, for me, kind of a criticism, but we don't get into their motivations too much. But what we do learn is that they're not completely evil, or at least not all the characters are. The main, what you think is antagonist, called Lady Eboshi, she is not evil. That they make it pretty clear early on when she's actually employing these women from a brothel. She's basically taking them out of really tough circumstances. She's also helping these lepers who were rejected by society. She is not an evil person. And of the same respect, the forest people aren't evil either, the forest creatures, but they sometimes do cruel things to try and protect their homeland. And so Ashitaka gets absolutely stuck in this and intertwined into this story. And he is a really interesting character in that he is not super conflicted. I did really like that he pretty much is a very selfless character, because he is going to die. Throughout most of the film, he is going to die, and his condition gets worse and worse. It just keeps on getting worse. But yet he, time and time again, decides to step up and help others. In particular, with the Princess Mononoke, with the actual princess herself, which is a girl called San. Now, San is interesting because much like Ashitaka, we don't really learn about her backstory. We do learn that she was left by her parents, and that then the wolf god Moro took her in. But other than that, we don't really learn about who her parents were, why she's called the princess. It's kind of vague. There's a lot of background stuff in this film. I don't know if these Ghibli films are connected, but there's an emperor that's mentioned, there's princesses and princes, even just the origin of where the demon essence comes from is never actually explained. We never learn about these things. But what is clear is that humans and the creatures need to live together. They need to find a way to work in harmony other than just trying to fight each other on both sides. That is the only thing that's pretty much certain by the end of the film. And we'll get into spoilers now, but I was surprised that none of the villains by the end of the film actually died. Jigo, who was the old man character that I mentioned earlier, he is a lot more sus than I thought at first. But again, he doesn't actually die either. And at the end of the film, he just says, "Oh, I'm surrounded by fools." So he doesn't get cool. So he doesn't die. He doesn't get redeemed in any way. He just simply says, "I'll stuff it," by the end of the film, which was surprising. You don't see that in many films, at least that I've seen. And the Lady Eboshi, by the end of the film, she has a change of heart as well, because she's not evil, and she realizes she doesn't have to just destroy things in order to benefit humanity. She doesn't die. I think that was quite clear from early on. But there is some just... The way the film ends, it wraps up quite quickly, and it does not explain these things, but it leaves a lot of questions open, which is quite thought-provoking. I mentioned the music earlier. The music is brilliant. The little love story between Ashitaka and San is quite sweet. A lot of the side characters, especially the character Tori, I think her name is, and her husband in Irontown, were really entertaining. Even the elk, Yugal, I think, which is Ashitaka's steed mount, was really quite a character. It didn't go for any character arc or anything, but there was a lot of times where it would really assert its agency and try to help him. And there was a bit where even when San said, like, "You can go, you're free now," because she's of course working with the forest spirit. She doesn't think that she's human, pretty much. And Yugal, the elk, basically says, "No, I want to stay with Ashitaka," which just, it's not a lot, but it's just little things. In terms of the music, of course, the music's absolutely brilliant. It's very much that high fantasy type epicness that you come to expect from these type of films, but it also very much is that whimsical, almost Japanese kind of, and this is very much a Japanese film in the way the characters talk sometimes, and that they announce what they're doing, and also the fact that there's samurai, the landscapes are obviously Japanese, pulled out of history, the houses. This is first and foremost a film about, basically, this is set in a Japanese-like world. And from the character designs, to the way the characters act sometimes, to some of the story beats, it's not a Western story. And so, simply from experiencing a different kind of film that's not just Disney, basically, this was a great experience, and I did really enjoy it. Now, because of all of the unanswered questions by the end, and the differences between things I'm used to, I do have a lot to think about with this film. So I'm not completely sure how I feel, but I do know that I really enjoyed it. I can tell you that much. This film is very good. It's very well made. The presentation is beautiful. The English voice acting is quite good. It's a brilliant film. I will add, just here, that I, as someone who is hard of hearing, I do listen to things with subtitles. I do watch things with subtitles, and the subtitles didn't always match what was actually being said. I did realize that the subtitles might just say something like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" In the actual film, a character might say, "Hey, how you going? Yeah, you know, what's up? What are you doing here?" Like, it would be the same sentiment, but there will be different things. Not sure why that occurred, if it's because of the dubbing, or if it's because of the subtitles guy. Netflix was just too lazy. I'm not sure, but regardless, that was just interesting as someone who was listening to it with the subtitles on Netflix. I don't know if that's universal across all the different versions of the film, though. But should you see Princess Mononoke if you know nothing about Studio Ghibli? Yeah, totally. If you're a fantasy fan, if you're a high fantasy fan especially, definitely see this film. It's really good. It's good fantasy. It's got some great messaging there, and some really just great presentation. I reckon I will do another video on this film once seeing more of Studio Ghibli's lineup. I'll come back and I'll look at it from more informed eyes, because I do realise this review is hindered by the fact that I know virtually nothing. That's okay, I'm ignorant, but I do want to come back and look at it with more refined eyes in the future, so remind me of that. Remind me of that in the future when I see more of these films. Do you want me to review more of these films, though? Because that would be my pleasure. I would love to do that with you guys. Regardless, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe if you want to see more. We're nearly at 500 subscribers. Wow, that's a big number. It's a big number. So, yeah, have a great day. My name is Jasper, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.